Well, good afternoon. I'm the last speaker of the day, and I was asked to explain to the audience a little bit about how Google thinks about technology. Some people ask me today, how do you keep thinking of all these new things? Every time we turn around, there's a new feature. How does that work? Do you have different kind of people, or what? And so I wanted to talk through this idea, and I chose this artwork because a friend of mine named Alan Kay, the man who thought of the idea of the computer mouse and the window desktop environment, he told me once, he said, point of view is worth 80 IQ points. That is, if you could see something from a different position than other people, there's probably some position you could see it from that would make you basically incredibly smart, so smart that you have an unbeatable advantage in understanding the problem. So in this case, if there was a maze, if you could look from the top, even the least intelligent person could solve it better than the fastest, most intelligent person. And so I'm going to give you some ideas of how we think about things a little bit differently than most, and what that means, and what it means when we do things, what we're thinking. So we'll start with this idea of, let's say you had a question. So I was in my hotel room, I think of a question. Well, how about this? Did our pet have a beard? Now that's a question. I don't know. Now, I did a Google search to find out. It took 7/100ths of a second. So that time for the display there was exactly 7/100ths of a second. In that time, we looked at 8.2 million documents. When you see that little number on Google search, we looked at so many millions of documents. Let me explain what that means. In the data center you saw before, 50,000 computers did your search in parallel, each on 1/50,000th of the contents of the internet, simultaneously. And we wove all the results together to give you an answer in 100th or 1,000th of a second. Okay, you just did one of the largest parallel computations done by modern computer science every time you do a Google search. And that's how we make it go so fast. And so you can find out something like, well, yes, he did have a beard. We can see his beard right there. You know, the man had a beard. Big, you know, nice beard, not me. And the idea of searching has become so common in the last decade that people expect that just typing in anything will give the perfect answer, which is two evolutions. First, it was novelty. You could type in something and sometimes get an answer. And then it was kind of expected that if you type in something reasonable, you would get a reasonable answer. But now if you can think of anything in the world, people will type it in and they really get mad, actually, if they don't get a perfect answer. So I like that. That means that we've gone so far that the expectation level is of a fine restaurant. You expect every meal to be one of the best in your life. And so we work really hard to achieve that. But even that isn't good enough. Let me give you an example of that. And most of my examples will come from my experience here in Budapest. So hopefully you know what this is here. This is a goulash. Well, what is a goulash? Well, it turns out that there are many kinds. It's not a thing, it's a variety of things. So let's say I wanted to make one. What would I do? Well, as you can see, the different kinds, I'm going to look for a recipe. The different kinds each have different ingredients. So how would I do a Google search to find out what recipe to use? So this is the case, we need something better. So here we go. This is me this morning. I do a search for the goulash, and then I can click which ingredients I have or don't have, and then Google is constantly searching for me all the recipes it could find that are consistent with what I have in my kitchen. Okay, if you look at the top up here, it says, okay, these are recipes. Obviously you have to have paprika, you couldn't make a goulash, right? But you couldn't even you'd be expelled from Hungary if you didn't have paprika, right? But if you have paprika, and then you also need to have a variety of things. This is telling me the best recipes in the world, the most highly rated recipes online, that match what's in my kitchen. Now it's only a little bit further from this to imagine RFID on cans of food, where your kitchen knows what you have. So if you do a Google search at home, they'll say, oh, make this one because you don't have the veal. See what I'm saying? So that's the kind of searching to us, that just seems natural. You know, maybe you like goulash, but you're on a diet, so you need to get the 100-calorie version. Whatever it is, this kind of searching where it's thematic, it kind of anticipates what you might need. It uses extra information that's in the context of the search query to give an answer that's almost like an intelligent assistant. It's like having a butler or a chef. Well, I'm going to make the goulash, but I know that you don't prefer to have the veal, and I know you're on a diet, so I'm going to make this. That kind of thing. We're trying to make a Google search that smart in every dimension that we can think of like that. So this is all, everything I'm talking about is live. So if you have a computer, you feel free to do the search for goulash in Budapest, and you get the same choices, and you can see what recipes you get if you leave certain things in and out. Like if you don't have parsnips, it doesn't make too much of a difference, but if you don't have the beef or the veal, then it says like, you can't, with the chicken, the vegetarian goulash, it's like, just, it's not really goulash. Okay, so that's a kind of searching. Now, there's another idea here, is that idea of location. And our tool for location is called Google Earth and Google Maps. And so you can tell what this is now. This is icebergs floating and glaciers, but you still don't know where it is because you can't see enough to understand it. Now, when you zoom back out, you start getting more information. You can see you're in the South Atlantic Ocean, and in fact, if you read the book South, people will hike from one end of that island to the other end of that island, and you can follow their path perfectly in Google Earth. But now we're going to fly from the south of the Antarctic Sea in the Atlantic over Africa, and we're going to come here basically. So let's see what we see. We have a pretty good sense now of how things laid out. We can see Hungary, but we can see Montenegro, Bosnia, we can see Rome over here, and now we're heading on in. Let's take a look. It's looking familiar now because I can see, the airport's over here, and the river. Now, I looked around the city before I came here. I looked at this yesterday, and I was looking for interesting places. I found this would be a fun place. There's a radio tower in town. You could climb to the top of that and get a good view. If you didn't have Google Earth, you could climb to the top of that and take a look. But it would be inconvenient, at least. Now here's the Buddha Castle. Now the thing is these are models in Google Earth that are made, some by Google, but a lot by local people. People make these models and upload them to the 3D warehouse, and they get included in Google Earth. Everybody can see them. And you click on any of these buildings, if you click on them, it'll tell you who made the model. So we have clubs of people making models all around the country, all around the world, modeling the Eiffel Tower, modeling most of the big cities. And here we have the view of the former two cities, the chain bridge that connected Buda and Pest, and you can see the two sides. You can see the buildings are all in 3D. So it gives you a sense of where you are. And so you actually understand what it feels like to be there. I was able to find a restaurant from last night very easily because the roads were what I expected. Everything looked right. You see the Parliament building. So these are things that everybody sees, but they don't really look at, they don't study. But with a tool like this, a first-time visitor can become almost an expert in an area before they go. So when they're there, their experience of looking around a city is one of like home. It's one of comfort. It's what in Latin would be genus loci. It's the sense of place. So you can know what it's like at the place before you go. Not just know where it is on a map, or but really to know the place, have some sense of realness. And the experience of this wide coverage, perspective, correct color view, I think is pretty real. So it almost feels emotionally real. I don't know if you quite realize where the camera is, but I'll give you a hint, is that you should look up. If the windows weren't closed, you could see my computer flying in right now. So this idea of the entire planet being explorable is an idea that we did. It's like search. We did this place search, which is Google Earth and Google Maps, and we have the home of more than 2.5 billion people. Now, the next thing that we did, that we see as a big technology effort in the last few years, was something that you could call it Google Chrome, but the goal isn't Chrome. The goal is to make the web a really rich and good place for programs to live, a really good place for people to do their computing. So you just saw in the cloud computing presentation the kinds of things people do, and one of the points we've made was about performance. Well, one of the limits that you have in web browsers typically is things ran in web browsers, but they were always slow and terrible compared to the local version. Like, for example, webmail was nice with Hotmail, but it was very slow compared to Outlook. And the same thing could be true for a lot of things. The fact that you could do it online doesn't make you do it online. It was not fun to do it online. So one of the things we've worked on is security. We thought browsers could be more secure because people have security problems, viruses, and malware. Also, we work on speed. Browsers could be faster. They could be a lot faster. In fact, browsers could be as fast as local custom software. And we have several examples of that. And here's an example for you right now. This is Chrome running on my laptop computer. showing a globe. In this case, the little spikes coming out of the globe, what these count are the population of major cities. We have a globe like this at Google that counts real-time searches people do. But you can see where the big cities are in the world, and you can see that, not a lot of them are in the South Pacific, for example. But Jakarta is one of the big ones, and you can see Tokyo is a really big one. You can go through and understand the population of the world, spinning the globe around, you visualize data in context on a globe. This is all done in HTML. It's all in HTML and JavaScript. So it's actually pretty good for HTML and JavaScript. So in Chrome, we can use the real 3D graphics power of the computer. Before I joined Google, before I started the company that did Google Earth, I was director of graphics software at a company called Silicon Graphics, and one of my products there was called OpenGL. And it's the programming language used for graphics on every computer in the world. And we access OpenGL through browsers in Chrome. So we can actually run almost any game, almost anything you can do on your computer, we can actually get to in a browser, which means it's a different kind of computing. It's very fast, very safe, very fast. That's what we care now. Now, we actually don't care if you use Chrome. If our performance and safety shames other people that are making better browsers, that's equally good to us. For example, you buy an iPhone, which is a fantastic phone. It has Google Maps on it. I don't care if you buy that or Android phone. Yeah? I just don't want you to buy like a bad phone. You're gonna get lost. That's we provide web services to any device. We just made sure that web browsers could be as good as they really could be. The other technology thing that we've done a lot lately that I think is pretty interesting, and it's more understandable if you think of it as evolution, is what's going on with portable devices over the last 40 years. Just think of that. Over the last 40 years, what's portable and what's not? Well, computers became portable thanks to compact. It was pretty heavy, but it was portable, and they got thinner and thinner and thinner. And so people pay a lot more for thinner computers that aren't as good because they're thin, and they're light, they're easy to carry, they're pleasant. People like portable. The Walkman evolved into the iPod. Everybody has an iPod. I think everybody in the world has an iPod. I bet Steve Ballmer secretly has an iPod somewhere. Everybody has an iPod. So that's great, but it started out small, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So now the Nano is big, and the little tiny one, it's like the next one's gonna be so small you can have a magnifying glass to push the buttons, right? So it's, people like small, portable things. They like control over their own data, they like that. Now, what phones evolved from, which almost is comical now when you see these, they look like Neanderthal people over here. What they evolved to basically is perfected in the iPhone. The iPhone is a brilliant idea. I think the Android phone is a good idea also. It's very similar, very parallel, they didn't follow each other. Apple's style is a little bit different than Google's. Apple's style is to make as nice a phone as they can make when they control everything. And Google's style is to make more of an open platform for things just to work. It may not be quite as elegant because we don't control it all. So you can imagine Macintosh versus PC. It's kind of the same issue as the iPhone versus the Android phone. And the point of that is that people want to do this kind of computing. It's not that we want them to, it's they want to. So we build tools to make that work well. And you see that on the lower right there in terms of tablets. The Apple tablet, the Android Samsung Galaxy tablet, I have one of those. I have both those actually. I travel with iPhone and Android phone, 2 Android phones, and an iPad and an Android tablet. I have 5 things, plus my MacBook Pro. I have 6 computers, so when I go to the airport, they want to put a computer in. I have all these trays, I'm pulling all this stuff out of my bag. I like all these things. But the key is all of these things are better than Cray computers work. All of them work easily, and they all have something fantastic going for them that normal computers don't, which is if you break one or lose one, you haven't lost anything. You just plug it, you buy a new one at the store, plug it in and synchronize it, and you have exactly what you had before. There's no heirloom quality to these devices. These are actually disposable devices. Now, they're too expensive to want to dispose of them, but there's no emotional bonding or love to any one device. They're completely interchangeable. Happens to have your stuff on it, but if you lose it, it doesn't matter. Especially with Android and Chrome OS, because your stuff's encrypted, you won't lose anything. So that's a new kind of computing. Now, that's just a look at where we are today. In case you weren't noticing the menu search or whatever else, hadn't noticed Google Earth, you weren't one of the 800 million people that use Google Earth. I want to talk a little bit about the future, because the future is actually much more interesting than the present. The future is what we're building now. It's what Microsoft is building now. It's what Apple is building now. It's what Facebook is building now. Twitter, it's what students are training to do in colleges. The future, not the past. A long time ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, if you learned something in college, you could do it for an entire career. Things didn't change very quickly. Things change very quickly now. If you think about things like Amazon, Google, iPod, all these things didn't exist 10 years ago. Okay, it didn't exist. It wasn't that they weren't good. They just didn't exist at all. These are all new ideas. And yet they're used by most humans. They have access to the internet. So new ideas catch on quickly in the internet. So the number one thing you should know is that change is coming. Change is always unpleasant for people, but change is happening. So the number one thing is interesting to me is in the area of speech recognition and language translation. We're pretty good on the Android phone. If you hit the little, next to the space bar on the touch keypad, there's a little microphone picture. If you click on that, you can talk into your phone, whatever language you use. And it's like 97, 98% accuracy. It's really good for common phrases and utterances, even better than that. So the idea of using your computer just hit the button and talk into it, and the result is, to make 2 or 3 spelling error corrections and you're done, actually is there right now. So I would think, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, it should be good enough that it just always works. That's very important. It's important for a number of reasons. One, it's important because then it's convenient. So you could do hands-free communicating. That's convenient. But it's actually important because once we know what your words were, we can do things to them. So one thing we can do is we can translate it. So you speak into it in Hungarian, it comes out in Finnish, and the Finnish guy can understand what you're saying. So if we can do that, that means your SMSs, your emails, your real-time conversations on the phone can all be, if necessary, automatically translated for you. And what you see in Google products now is this incremental march in every single product towards that kind of real-time translation capability. So if you send somebody a mail in a foreign language, when they get it, it says, this mail looks like it's in, say, Hungarian. Do you want me to translate it to English? And I would say, yes, and then I would just get that. So it's not perfect, but it's good enough to do 1,000-page legal documents from the United Nations, from Chinese to Persian, which is one of the tests. So it's really good. So what that means is that the language barrier, which the Tower of Babel story is all about, is going to fall in the next year or 2 or 3 years. It's actually crumbling now, but it's still, our translation isn't so good that it's perfect yet. You can't translate poetry, so don't translate like a love letter. It might not help you, But we're within just a year or two of breaking the human language barrier, which is one of the most significant things that computers and computing and engineers could possibly do for humans. There are 6.5 billion people, 1.5 billion online. Those 1.5 are going to be able to talk to everybody else in the world. Because of Android phones, it's going to be 4.5. So everybody can talk, everywhere in the world, anytime you want to. That seems to me, I'm proud of that if we haven't done anything else. What a great thing to accomplish, and we're very close on that. The translation point, I can prove that. So how do you know what this is? It's the Rosetta Stone. Everybody knows it's the Rosetta Stone, and I've never met anybody that knows what it says. So let me ask you, does anybody here know what it says on the Rosetta Stone? I have one man that says he knows. What? Oh, what does it say on it? Do you know? Do you know what words are on it? Yeah, what is written on there? Do you know? No. Okay, let me show you. So that's what it says. It says, it doesn't say it in English. That's what it is in English. It actually is in hieroglyphic, Demotic, and ancient Greek. That's what it says in English. So what I did was I translated it using the Google Translate feature into 52 languages in less than a minute on my mobile phone. The full text of the Rosetta Stone. So I kind of like that. It's a mystery to people for the ages, what all the different languages were, how to translate them. As an example of our current translation, I could have translated into Hungarian as well. I urge you to, if you haven't used Google Translate, you should try that out. I don't care if you use it, but you should have in your heart the joy of knowing that it's only a year or two until all humans are free of the language barrier. You'll have confidence of that if you try it. And I think that's an exciting point. It means that global applications can be really global. Anyone with electricity can actually use your product. It really changes what it means to have a store. It's just incredible. And that hasn't quite happened to people yet. They don't quite understand that. We do 500 million of these a day. 500 million translations inside Google we do for people around the world. People are already talking 500 million times a day in other languages than their native language. So I think that's fantastic. I think we live in a world where there's not enough mutual understanding. So I think opening that up to every language group would be a huge change that we could do in our lifetime. Another area that's really changing right now, and you might not think of it as a technology, but you will once I tell you how we think about it, is this idea of users creating content. So if you think about the way movies work, or books work, or television works, you sit and watch somebody else make content, right? So Shakespeare writes the play and you watch him act it out, or somebody's on the TV and somebody wrote the story, somebody acts it out. So you're passive, you watch, somebody else does the work. And there's a small set of people, they're in Bollywood, Hollywood, wherever they are. If you think about things like the Wikipedia, none of the content came from the encyclopedia company, all of it came from regular users. Now, those regular users weren't really regular. They were experts in the thing they're writing about, but they're just people from among society. So it's society educating itself. The notion is that the intelligence of the human race is distributed all throughout the human race. And if you can find a way to bring all that together, that benefits the whole human race. And you see that, maybe all your friends are on Facebook, so you go to Facebook, so you see all your friends. All the answers are on Google search, so use Google search. All the encyclopedia entries are on Wikipedia, so use that. So in the case of YouTube, for example, I did search here for Hungary, and I get a chance of Hungary videos. So that's the kind of user content generation that you might think about. There's another kind too. That's the kind where the users know that they're creating content. Now I want to show you something, not exactly secret, but I want to show you something, don't tell anybody, but about how users can help make content even when they don't know about it. So let's get one example. This is Google Street View in Prague. And what I want to show you is, our view it's kind of blurry, but that's not important. At the places we take Street View, everyday people take pictures with their fancy digital cameras. And we can match up the pictures in Street View and the pictures in the digital cameras to automatically geolocate pictures of things that we've taken pictures of with Street View. And then you can navigate through the pictures that people have taken on Flickr, this is from Flickr, or from Panoramio, or from wherever Facebook, wherever people share pictures of, and you can get to super high resolution pictures. It's very interesting. It's like, you probably heard about Street View. Some people love it, most people love it. Some regulators don't like it as much. So the fun fact of it though is that there are 20 billion digital photos online that we can correlate with the Street View pictures. Correlating those pictures is tremendously higher resolution than anything we can take a picture of with our little camera in the middle of the street on top of the car in a little bubble, So we have the low-res picture, but it's good enough to locate the high-res pictures that already exist online. Don't have face blurring, don't have anything taken out of them. So it's an interesting legal context right now where the low-res thing is questionable and the high-res thing is legal. It's a fascinating thing. So what that leads to, though, is if you think even more, and I'll try to get you to be engineers for a minute. So if two people took a picture of me, like somebody over here and somebody over there, then I would look kind of the same in both pictures, but not quite the same, right? My nose would be on different sides, and maybe, my tie sideways so you can tell which. So the pictures would be similar but different. If you have enough pictures and you analyze them to see what's similar and what's different, what you can find out is there are two pictures taken from the same thing but from different places. And by comparing angles and shapes, you can kind of guess where the camera was. Not very accurately, but you can guess. But if you have, the more pictures you have, the more you can refine your guesses. And you keep refining that, and eventually you get enough information about the thing people are taking pictures of to know where all the cameras were. And once you know where all the cameras are, you can figure out what the shape must have been of the thing in the picture to have it look that way from all those pictures. That's a research project in computer vision, and for the last 20 years. It's gotten really good. So I'm going to show you an example where we take pictures from Flickr, about 5,000 pictures, of a really complicated building. It's called St. Paul's Cathedral in Rome. It's at the Vatican. And I want you to look. This is data made just by comparing pictures from Flickr that people took at the Vatican. Okay, they were just taking pictures, pictures of their brother, their wife, their kids, and by comparing all the pictures, we could figure out where the cameras were. Then we could figure out where the building must be shaped like, and then, given that where the building must be shaped like, we could put the picture onto the wall of the building from the pictures, right? So this isn't a complete reconstruction, but it even has the famous window at the end, St. Peter's window with all the carved relief. So this is one of the most complex buildings in the world, constructed from about 5,000 pictures on Flickr, okay? So I'd like you to think about what you get if you have 20 billion pictures that are actually online right now in terms of reconstructing the world around us. And that's what's going on at Google on all those computers. People don't know what we do with our computers, okay? So it's actually a world made by the people who want to see it. It's a mirror world made by humans, for humans. And their actual actions of taking pictures, all those pictures of the Trevi Fountain, all the pictures of the chain bridge, recreate the chain bridge, recreate the Trevi Fountain. So all the things people care about are being recreated just because they care about them. It's an interesting turning point in technology that the thoughts of 1 billion or 2 billion people can be put together by a third party, Google or somebody else, to solve a problem. It's interesting. Finally, I'd like you to listen for a moment. So I'd like to take you through what's really happening there, because you might not understand. This is all real, this is live now. This isn't Google moving into the Sudoku game solving business. Okay, that's totally irrelevant, unimportant. Here's what's important. Using your Android phone, you take a picture of a thing. In this case, it's a puzzle, you know, the Sudoku puzzle, 9x9 grid of numbers. The camera sees the picture and sends it off to Google. Google looks at the picture and says, oh, I see lines and numbers. I wonder if there are 9x9 set of lines and numbers. Oh, it looks like there are. I wonder if they're all numbers. It looks like they are. Well, maybe it's a Sudoku puzzle. You know, that is, it makes the semantic leap from it's a picture of lines and numbers to it's a particular kind of thing. And the thing has meaning. And then, if you like, we can go off on our servers and run a computer program to do something about the meaning. In this case, solve the puzzle. We can present that result back to you almost instantaneously on your handheld device. That is a result that's basically an intelligent result. It's a computation based on wisdom and thinking and insight and judgment. In this case, it's algorithmic, but it's actually doing a smart thing, solving the puzzle, doing logical deductions. That works today on your phone. If you have an Android phone, I urge you to take pictures of Sudoku puzzles. It'll make you popular in bars, you know. But what's important is imagine instead that you're taking a picture of your baby when the baby has a rash, and the computer, looking at pictures supplied by doctors, could tell you if that was normal or abnormal, right? It could take a picture of a broken part and tell you whether it needs to be replaced or it can be repaired. All those kinds of judgment things that involve a picture and then understanding and thinking, these actually work in a cloud computing environment remotely, even something as lightweight as your phone, to make intelligent judgment calls all by itself. He didn't say it was a Sudoku puzzle. He just showed it a picture. It could have been anything, but it wasn't. It was a Sudoku puzzle, and the computer figured that out. So we're very busy on trying to find ways to have computers do image intelligence and search intelligence to make people's lives better and do heavyweight computations at the back end. Like Google search, but really, really difficult computations at the back end. So, for example, take a picture of a tree and tell you what kind of fertilizer you need to make it healthy, things like that. So, with that, I want to thank you. That's what I wanted to share with you, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.